Why is Korea the only country in the world still divided by a Cold War border? How did neighbors who once shared the same language, culture, and land become bitter enemies? Today, we're uncovering the real story of how Korea split into two separate nations, one closed off from the world, the other booming with technology and pop culture. For most of its history, Korea was one unified country. It was ruled by different dynasties over the centuries, but the land and people were the same. This changed in the late 1800s, when foreign countries started to look at Korea as a place. They wanted to control. In the 19th century, the Joseon dynasty ruled Korea. They were very cautious about opening up to outsiders. The Korean leaders believed that trading or making deals with other nations could weaken their independence. At this time, China had influence over Korea, and Japan was growing stronger. Western countries like the United States, France, and Britain were also exploring Asia and trying to make trade agreements. During the reign of Lee Hae-young, also called Daewang-un, Korea took an even harder stance against foreigners. Daewang-un ruled in place of his young son, King Gojong. He banned foreign religions and trade. When French and American ships arrived to demand trade rights, the Korean military attacked them, driving them away. But this isolation could not last. Forever in 1876, after Daewang-un lost power, Japan forced Korea to sign a treaty called the Treaty of Ganghwa. Japan sent warships and threatened violence if Korea refused. This treaty opened Korean ports to Japanese trade. It was the first time Korea had been pressured like this by another Asian country, and it changed everything. Soon after, Western nations also demanded similar agreements. China did not like that Japan was expanding its influence in Korea. As Korea had been a tributary of China for centuries, the Qing dynasty wanted to keep control. Chinese officials sent advisors and soldiers to Korea, trying to balance Japanese influence. Korea now had to walk a tightrope between two powerful neighbors. While Western countries were also demanding trade rights, the Korean government tried to modernize but struggled with internal divisions. Some Korean leaders wanted to follow Japan's example and quickly reform society. Others thought slow changes were safer. This split led to conflict. In 1884, a group of pro-Japanese reformers attempted a coup. They wanted to end old traditions and modernize government and industry in a radical way. But only 3 days later, Chinese troops stormed the capital and crushed the uprising. This created more tension between Japan and China. Both countries agreed to pull their soldiers out of Korea and signed the Lee-Edo Convention in 1885. But beneath the surface, they were still competing for control. By the 1890s, Korea had become a pawn in a struggle between larger powers. In 1894, a peasant rebellion broke out in southern Korea. The rebellion, known as the Donghak Peasant Movement, was sparked by anger over heavy taxes, corruption, and the growing foreign presence. The Korean king asked China for help. China sent troops to suppress the uprising. In response, Japan also sent soldiers, claiming they needed to protect their interests. This sparked the First Sino-Japanese War. Japan's army was more modern and better organized. It defeated China quickly. In 1895, China signed the Treaty of Shimonoseki, giving up its claim over Korea. Korea was declared an independent state. But in reality, Japan now had the upper hand. China's defeat encouraged Russia to step in. Russia had long wanted more influence in East Asia. With backing from France and Germany, Russia pressured Japan to give back the Liaodong Peninsula, which Japan had gained from China. Japan, though angry, agreed to return it to avoid further conflict. This move made many Koreans hopeful that Russia would balance Japan's growing power. At the same time, Korea's royal family faced a crisis. Queen Min, who opposed Japanese influence, tried to build closer ties with Russia. In 1895, Japanese agents and Korean collaborators assassinated her in the royal palace. Her death shocked Korea and pushed King Gojong to turn more toward Russia. For protection. In 1896, King Gojong fled to the Russian legation in Seoul, where he stayed for over a year. From there, he tried to regain control over his government. During this time, Korea granted Russia and other Western countries rights to build railroads, mine minerals, and harvest timber. These concessions further weakened Korea's independence, though King Gojong returned to his palace and declared Korea an empire in 1897. the country remained vulnerable. Russia continued expanding in the region. When the Boxer Rebellion broke out in China in 1900, Russia occupied Manchuria. This alarmed Japan, which saw Russian expansion as a threat. By 1904, tensions erupted into the Russo-Japanese War. Although Korea declared neutrality, Japan occupied strategic areas, claiming military necessity. After Japan defeated Russia in 1905, both sides signed the Treaty of Portsmouth, brokered by the United States. Under the treaty, Russia recognized Japan's special interests in Korea. After the war, Japan moved quickly to tighten its hold. In 1905, it forced Korea to sign the Yulsa Treaty, making Korea a protectorate. This meant Korea could not make treaties or conduct foreign affairs without Japanese approval. Korean people protested, but Japan installed advisors who held real power. In 1910, Japan formally annexed Korea, ending the Korean Empire. For the next 35 years, Korea was ruled as a colony. The Japanese government controlled schools, businesses, and newspapers. They tried to suppress Korean culture and language. Many Koreans were forced to work in factories or on farms to support Japan's economy. Resistance movements formed, both inside Korea and among Koreans living abroad. When World War II broke out, Korea's situation became more desperate. Japan conscripted Korean men into its army and forced women into labor camps. In 1945, after Japan's surrender, Korea was liberated, but freedom came with a new problem. The United States and the Soviet Union, allies in the war, now viewed each other with suspicion. They quickly divided Korea into two zones of occupation. Along the 38th parallel, the Soviet Union controlled the north. The United States controlled the south. This division, at first temporary, would later harden into a permanent split. In the north, Soviet forces supported a Korean communist movement led by Kim Il-sung. In the south, the U.S. military government backed Korean politicians who favored democracy and a market economy. Tensions between the two zones increased. In 1948, each side declared itself the legitimate government. The South became the Republic of Korea, with Syngman Rhee as president. The North became the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, led by Kim Il-sung. Neither side accepted the other's legitimacy. The border became more than just a line. It was the front line of the Cold War. In 1950, North Korea invaded the South, hoping to reunify the country by force. The Korean War began. The United States and other United Nations members joined to defend South Korea. China entered the war on North Korea's side. After 3 years of brutal fighting and millions of casualties, an armistice was signed in 1953, but no peace treaty followed. The peninsula remained divided along almost the same line as before the war. After the war, both Koreas faced enormous challenges. North Korea rebuilt with Soviet and Chinese support. It established a centralized, state-controlled economy and a strict dictatorship under Kim Il-sung. Over the decades, power passed to his son, Kim Jong-il, and later to his grandson, Kim Jong-un. South Korea struggled with poverty and political instability in the 1950s and 60s, but by the 1970s, it began to industrialize rapidly. Supported by the United States and driven by a hardworking population, South Korea became one of the fastest-growing economies in the world. Today, it is a democracy known for innovation, pop culture, and a high standard of living. The Demilitarized Zone, or DMZ, remains one of the most heavily guarded borders in the world. It is a symbol of unfinished conflict and lost unity. While some families have been separated for generations, both governments still claim to be the rightful rulers of all Korea. The story of Korea's division is not just about two countries. It is about colonialism, war, and the power struggles of foreign empires. It is a reminder of how decisions made by larger powers can change the fate of a nation forever. And while the scars of the past still remain, many people on both sides still hope that one day the peninsula might be reunited in peace. If you'd like to see more clear, true stories about world history, please consider subscribing so you never miss a new documentary.